Good afternoon, class. My name is JacobK-LU, and we are going to be doing a weather briefing for one of my favorite routes. We were given a pick for a destination of at least 150 nautical miles with 3 stops. This is well over that 150. This is going to be 601, and this is my route to Oshkosh. You'll see that it actually ends at Fond du Lac because I do not like to do the crazy arrival into Oshkosh. I'd rather drive that last 20 minutes there. Anyway, so going into any airport, I teach my students an acronym NW-CRAFT. So what that is all the information that you need going into a destination airport. This, we have 3. So we're going to have N, NOTAMs. W, the most important for this class, is going to be our weather, whether that be the current weather, the destination weather, because it might take an hour or two to get to your destination airport or your en route airports. Then the winds aloft. Some other temperatures is going to be part of that weather part. So very important because I filed IFR for this one. So if we're going through some clouds, we need to know what those temperatures are so that we don't pick up icing in our little 172. Known ATC delays. Very important to know if there's going to be any delays getting into our destination airports because of fuel burn, so we don't want to be running out of fuel and having to declare an emergency because we mismanaged our fuel. Thankfully, I've done this route many of times, and they're all going to be VFR airports, with no, not VFR airports, just non-towered airports, so we're not going to have to worry about any runway delay or ATC delays. Runway lengths, 16 Golf, Tiffin and Front Royal, our home base, is going to be the shortest of the airports, Front Royal being 3,000, and 16 Golf, I believe, is, let's see here, 4,000, if I remember correctly. Yep, 4,000. The others are like about 5,000 or so, so plenty of room there. Alternates, we got Mansfield here. This is my favorite alternate for going into 16 Golf. Going over to Lansing, we have South Bend up here. That's a good alternate, or Fort Wayne if the weather, usually definitely in the summer, about this line here, you're going to see a lot of thunderstorms rolling through here in the mid-afternoon. I flight plan for early in the morning to try and beat these thunderstorms, but you can see right now, it's mid-afternoon over there, and here's all these thunderstorms rolling through this area, getting all this weather over the Great Lakes. So, that's always a big one. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. How do I get this out of here? There we go. Remove from route. There we go. So we got our alternates. Oh yeah, I like to use Milwaukee up here for Fond du Lac. Field requirements. Each leg turns out to be, this is the longest leg. That's going to be about a 3-hour leg. And these are about 2 hours or so, give or take. The whole trip's going to be 6 hours in total. And this first leg, this 3-hour leg, going into the headwinds, I still land with about an hour and a half of reserve fuel. And then takeoff distances, I talked about the runway distances earlier. I know with my fuel load and weight load, if I had max gross weight on a hot day, I'm still getting out of all these airports. In and out of these airports, no problem. So, let's go to our weather brief here. So, going through ForeFlight, I got all this written down here in a little handy notebook here, but we'll just go through the weather briefing together. Before we go through this, though, I do have the flight service station frequencies all written in here. So for 16 Golf, we're going to be using Cleveland's 122.4. Lansing, we're going to use Kankakee, whatever those people up there like to name towns. So that's 122.7. And then Green Bay for Fond du Lac, we're going to be doing 122.5 for our flight service, just if we need any in-flight services there. For weather updates. So, going through some of our flight restrictions. Yeah, we got the baseball games here, so not going to have to worry about that, though. Usually I'm talking to departure or approach out here, and I stay off of the water. So I wouldn't even actually cross and follow this because this is going through the Bravo. I stay on the east side of the, uh, or just on the shore here to the east of the Bravo. Stay out of all that. Also, if you didn't know, you could actually fly through flight TFRs, like baseball, only if it's like a baseball, like a sporting a game or something like that. You just can't loiter. So that's actually a pretty interesting thing. But I always ask just in case. Um, this is always going to be the toughest part is the first crossing leg through Morgan or like the Morgantown area, that West Virginia area. You're going to have low clouds in the mornings, especially coming down here in the winter now. So you're gonna have possible IFR conditions here, and then with this, I'm not sure if you know West Virginia, but lots of mountains there, so possible mountain obscuration in this area. So that's always the trickiest part of the trip. And then the second trickiest part is going through the Fort Wayne area because there's going to be a lot of midday thunderstorms. Alrighty. Current weather. Again, this is all flight plan to be going to be departing Front Royal Airport at 7 a.m. on September 19th. It's September 18th right now, so it looks pretty clear, so you could kind of expect good weather, but you can't hope on it. But showing all VFR en route there. Clear and calm for the most part going out there. I was reading through the PIREPs earlier, and all the smaller airplanes and even bigger airplanes were reporting pretty light to smooth conditions for this area. I think there was one that was showing moderate turbulence, but for the most part, pretty smooth. This is always a big one for me, even though when I'm flying IFR. Again, I have to go through these West Virginia mountains here, so mountain obscuration is a big thing for me. But it's looking very, very clear for the most part. This 1200 Zulu, so this is going to be around 8 in the morning. We're departing 7 in the morning, so perfect timing there. Very clear, get through all the madness of the mountains. Once we get into the flats, still clear, sky's clear here. Getting over into Michigan, though, it seems like we got a little bit more weather with the clouds. We have all the Great Lakes up here, so it makes sense. But even then, we got overcast up here, 2,500, few 3,000, kind of where we're going, and then overcast, again, this is more where we're going to be actually at. Overcast 1,900. But like getting there, we're already going to be flying a little bit lower to stay under the Bravos and the Charlies anyway, so plenty clear. And then here's the whole United States here. So looking at the, I want to go to the task first here. So I've already kind of written through all these tasks here, but the forecast, Martinsburg is going to be the closest reporting TAF for Front Royal, or departure airport, and it's going to be showing about 320 at 4 knots. More than 6 statute miles visibility, skies clear. Then getting crossed through Morgantown at 1800 Zulu, so 1 p.m. It's going to be showing 280 at 5 knots, more than 6 statute miles visibility, few at 6,000. That was the only TAF I could find. I always think that predict that the weather is going to be worse than forecasted, and the only way I realize that is just crossing these mountains many of times. It's always been worse than forecasted. So I always take that TAF over the Morgantown airport with a grain of salt. So getting close to 16 Golf, we're going to have Mansfield over here where the cursor is. That's going to be reporting at 10 a.m. local, 1400 Zulu on the 19th. Is going to be 030 at 6 knots, 6 miles or more on the visibility, scattered 4,000. So a little bit lower clouds, but even then, just, bits and pieces there. You're probably going to have those white puffy cumulus clouds that you see in the summer. Getting crossed past to Fort Wayne, so past 16 Golf, Tifton, is going to be Fort Wayne's TAF is showing about 120 at 6 knots, more than 6 miles visibility, scattered at 4,000. So very similar to that Mansfield report. And it's going to be, I couldn't find actually a TAF. They didn't have one far out enough, so I was using the MOS there. So that's still going to be around noon to 6 o'clock local, which lines up for about the times that we're going to be getting there. You know, if you take fuel and a lunch break, and in effect, getting closer to our next fuel stop, Lansing Municipal, we're going to choose Chicago Midway. Another TAF that hasn't been produced that far out yet, so I used the MOS again, so around 1 p.m. local, we're going to be showing about 090 at 9 knots. 6 miles visibility, broken under 12000. So, you know, winds start to pick up and the weather pushing away some of those lower clouds. And then once we get past Chicago, getting close to Fond du Lac, we're going to have Waukesha's MOS, so that's going to be around 1400 Zulu, 070 at 5 knots, 6 miles visibility, broken 3500. So, you know, you might be getting some little of that lakefront lower clouds that I've normally seen. Fortunately, going there, you know, going west, we're going to be seeing a lot of headwinds, you know, right quartering headwinds up there, but it seems like it's going to be pretty light, around 13 to 14 knots. It actually turns into a left quartering headwind here, and then back into a right quartering headwind on the final leg. But pretty light on the winds. There's kind of a good cross section there. We'll be play level 6,000 here, or yeah, 6,000 feet. And here's that last filed for the winds aloft. Wanted to grab the synopsis here. I kind of skipped over that, but going back to there. So we're going to have a cold front that we're going to deal with coming over the lakes here. So we know the cold fronts typically produce south to southwest winds in front of them, and then behind it, northwest winds behind it. So I think that what I'm forecasting is this cold front's going to push through, and then we're going to get those northwesterly winds that we were seeing with the surface chart for the winds earlier. We're also going to have to deal with some of the cold front weather phenomenons like thunderstorms, precipitation, turbulence. You know, it's summer flying through the Midwest, so very, very typical. You're going to have to be dealing with some towering cumulus clouds as well. But temperatures, from what I was reading, seem pretty warm, so if we have to go through some of those clouds, you know, just those white puffy cumulus, you know, we should be fine. We won't have to worry about icing, but if we have to deal with some thunderstorms, we're going to probably have to be vectored around there. We got low pressure system around here, so low pressure systems are going to be moving counterclockwise and inward. So we're going to have to be dealing with that. And usually low ceilings and visibility come with those low pressure systems. So that's probably why we're seeing a little bit of lower clouds over here by our destination of Fond du Lac compared to the high pressure systems at our departure airport. But yeah, so, you know, some challenging weather that we're going to be having to deal with, but for the most part, really nothing that's going to inhibit our flight plan. Now, I'm always looking at alternate airports en route just in case that weather changes, because that weather can change very quickly in that area, especially with those pop-up thunderstorms. So we'll be looking out for that, but should be a safe flight, and I would consider that and conclude our weather briefing. Thank you very much.